Hey guys! So today we'll be talking about the basics of quadrilaterals. So to begin with, what are quadrilaterals? Quadrilaterals are figures that have four straight sides. This is a figure of a quadrilateral. It has four sides and it has no special properties other than that. To begin with, we can start talking about the kite. The kite is a quadrilateral because it has two pairs of congruent sides. These two sides are congruent to each other, and these two sides are congruent to each other. But other than that, there's nothing special about the kite. Also, the kite doesn't have any parallel sides or any right angles either. Next, the trapezoid. The trapezoid has one pair of parallel sides. It's these two sides. It doesn't have any congruent sides, it has no right angles, and nothing else like that. It just has one pair of parallel sides. And next, we can talk about parallelograms. Now, parallelograms are figures that have two sides, two pairs of parallel sides. Now, these two sides are parallel to each other, and these two sides are parallel to each other. The parallelogram also has two pairs of congruent angles. These are congruent sides. These two are congruent sides, and these two over here are congruent to each other as well. Now we can talk about the rhombus. So the rhombus has four congruent sides. All four of these sides are congruent to each other, but it only has two pairs of parallel sides. That's these two pairs, and these two pairs are parallel sides. Then next we can talk about the rectangle, which the rectangle is really special because it has four right angles on each of its angles, and it has two pairs of congruent sides. These two are congruent to each other, these two are congruent to each other, and it also has two pairs of parallel sides because these two are parallel and these two are parallel. And lastly, we'll be talking about the square, which is kind of like a combination between the rhombus and the rectangle because it takes their properties. The square, however, has all the properties of the parallelogram and just of the important angles. So for example, the square has four right angles. It has two pairs of parallel sides. These two are parallel, these two are parallel, and the square has four congruent sides because all of these are equal to each other. Now you can tell that it takes some properties from the rectangle, being the right angles, and it takes properties from the rhombus, being the congruent sides, and it's kind of like a combination between them. And now before we finish off, I just want to add in some vocab. And just before we finish, I just want to add in some vocab. Equiangular. Equiangular means that the figure has means that all of the angles in the figure are equal to each other. So for example, the square is equiangular and the rectangle is also equiangular because all of the angles are equal to each other. And then the second one is equilateral. Equilateral. This means that all the sides in the figure have the same length and that they're all equal to each other. So for example, the square and the rectangle, just the square is equilateral because all the sides are congruent to each other and they're the same length. And I think that's it. So thanks for joining us, guys. I hope you learned something, and join us next time.